So I obtained some footage yesterday of the character creator in Baldur's Gate 3, and I wanted to take a closer look at it with you all and talk about a few of the things that we can see. Do note that I do think we will be getting some more details soon on a few of the things that are a bit unclear at the moment, and of course as soon as we get that I will drop a new video. Also at the end of the video I am going to let some of this footage play without commentary. There will be chapter markers below. Let's jump right in. The first thing to take note of is over on the right side of the screen here, where you have this summary of what your character currently has selected. You can see your ability scores on top, even though we've not gone to that tab yet. Below that is this little icon of a figure that appears to be waving, and this is your initiative bonus, which is based off of your dexterity modifier. So if you have a 12 in dexterity, that will show as a +1, a 14 +2, 16 +3, etc. And actually, if you have a 10 or 11, it doesn't show anything here. Now, the higher this number is, the better chances you have of going earlier in the order of turns in combat. Next to that is your character's hit points, which is based off of your class choice and also your constitution modifier. Barbarians have the most base hit points, which is 12, but they can get that to 15 if they give themselves a 16 in constitution with that +3 modifier. And below this is a summary of all of your class actions that you get, perhaps cantrips or spells that you chose depending on the class. And then below that is all of your proficiencies with weapons and armor. So your class and race choice combined right here. This shows you all of those proficiencies. You can also see your skill proficiencies, which is one of the later on tabs in the character creator. So as you go through the character creation tabs, this character sheet and summary will be updating. And on the bottom of the screen, on the right side, basically Larian allows you to choose a body type at any time in the character creator, but you also get this choice presented to you in the appearance tab as well. Larian also lets you click through randomized appearance options at any time in the process. Now, the cool thing about this character creator is it's very easy to get to the appearance options pretty much at any time during this process, and all you have to do is click on the Edit Appearance button on the bottom of the screen. Now, I have gone over these appearance options in detail before, but I'm going to touch on it quickly as we did get some really nice new footage here. So many races in this game do have their own race-specific appearance options, such as Dragonborns being able to customize their crest, their chin, and their tail size, or maybe no tail at all. But there's also some appearance options that all races get access to, such as body type. Now, some of the races in the game, such as the Dragonborn and the Half-Orc, and I think also Dwarves and possibly Halflings, only get to choose between 2 body types, which is basically boobs or no boobs, while other races such as the human and the elf get 4 body types, adding in a taller, more muscular version of the body type selected. It would have been nice to have, 4 choices with all of the races, but this will have to do. All races also get to choose identity and voice, and there's definitely more voice options in the full version of the game. There's really a lot to this character creator, especially considering the cinematic nature of this game. This must have been quite the challenge for the Larian developers, so I'm pretty happy with everything we've seen so far. Now, the Half-Orc that you can see right now, on the right side of this appearance interface, you can see general, you can see body art, which includes piercings, eyes, and don't forget that heterochromia is a thing in this game, makeup, hair, and facial hair. And there's also sliders for maturity, freckles, and vitiligo. And you can choose your genitals. And I do have video footage of this, but I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not going to get age restricted today. There's actually more options here than what I saw when I played the full game last week, so expect a little bit of preset customization in this department. We did get to see a Duergar in the character creator for the first time, which is a subrace of the dwarf, and you can see the player right here messing around with facial scarring. Now, like I said in the intro, at the end of this video, I'm going to let some of this appearance footage just play out without commentary so you can all see more. All right, so the first tab of the character creator is the Origin Custom tab, where you choose if you want to play as your own custom character or as an Origin character. I think in Baldur's Gate 3, Custom and Origin should both offer good experiences. Now, if you want a fully customizable experience where the role playing is solely in your hands and the game doesn't assume anything about you, go with a custom character. If you want a character who has a predetermined backstory, kind of like Geralt of Rivia, you'll still have a ton of agency over their future actions, but their backstory is what it is, and it does play a huge part in their story. And also if you're okay with a set appearance, because from everything that we've seen so far, it does not look like you can change the appearance of the origin characters, except for one of them. And if you're okay with that, and that stuff sounds good to you, then I would consider going with an origin character. Now, each origin character is unique in their base class, so each one is a different class in this game, although from what I was told, it sounds like we'll be able to respec our origin character's class at the respec guy. I'm not going to give his name just for spoilers, but I'm waiting to definitively hear that from Larian first before I really start pushing that. Now, of course, we can see Astarion here, Lae'zel, Gale, Shadowheart, Will, Karlach, and the Dark Urge as our choices. And this is where I want to point out that the Dark Urge character is unique in that it kind of mixes being a custom character with being an origin character. The Dark Urge is fully customizable in appearance, name, and class, but this character has a dark, horrifying backstory, and part of playing the Dark Urge is figuring out what that story is, because this origin character does not have much of a recollection of their history or their past. So it's kind of like you, the player, and the origin character are figuring things out together. It's a really cool way to play as an origin character, in my opinion. Just beware that the urges that this character gets are to kill. It's not always pretty. You do have some agency over how you handle these urges, though. Now, the next tab is the Races tab, of which there are 11 core races in this game, but you'll be choosing between a total of 31 when you add sub-race into the choice. And this is the first time that we get to see a player tab over each race, but unfortunately we do not get to see all of the sub-races, nor does the player scroll over all of the specific racial features, but we can do some reasonable speculation. With the elf, there will be two sub-races, the high elf and the wood elf. And while in the early access version of the game, it was common to choose a sub-race specifically for the ability score bonus that it offers, that's not really how it works anymore in Baldur's Gate 3. So all the races will get a +2 and a +1 to put into whatever ability scores that they prefer. And therefore, any race and sub-race can work well in terms of ability score optimization with any class. But there will be some other factors to consider, such as proficiencies and, of course, racial features, of which I will be diving a bit into today, even though there's still some missing information. So this little arrow right here represents the racial features, and I believe the first icon here for the elf is telling us that elves get proficiency with long and short bows, long swords, and short swords. Now, the reason why you're seeing simple weapon and martial weapon proficiencies on the right side of the screen here is because, like I mentioned earlier, this player has selected the Barbarian class, and these proficiencies on the right side are a combination of your class and your race. Now, the eye icon, I believe, is a representation of the race having dark vision, so these types of races have an easier time seeing and attacking creatures in darker conditions, less need for a constant light source. And the tree icon, I believe, represents Fey ancestry, which gives elves advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and it also makes them immune to sleep. Elves should also get keen senses, but perhaps this is represented on a different screen, or it's shown in the description of one of these icons right here. Now, for the sub-race choice, even though we don't get to see it here, the appeal of the high elf is probably going to be because you get a cantrip right away at level 1, and the appeal of the wood elf will be that you get an extra 5 feet of movement speed, and you should also get proficiency in the stealth skill. For the Tiefling race, and do note that I will be doing a deeper dive into these races when we get more info, and that will include a bit of lore to help you decide what race is right for you. You can see here with the Tieflings that we also have the dark vision icon, and then next to that is, I would imagine, hellish resistance, which gives Tieflings resistance to fire damage. In simple terms, they only take half the damage of fire-based attacks. Now, there should be 3 sub-races to choose from. Well, we actually know there are 3, not should be. The Zariel Tiefling and the Asmodeus, or Asmodeus, depending on your pronunciation, will probably offer the Thaumaturgy cantrip, and then the Mephistopheles sub-race of the Tieflings should offer the Mage Hand cantrip. Now, Tiefling should be interesting to play in BG3, as there are Tiefling refugees from the city of Elturel running around, and I did do a lore video on the major catastrophic event that recently happened in the city of Elturel, so check that out if you missed it. I will leave a link below in the description. Just saying, Tieflings will probably have some unique dialogue, as they are experiencing a bit of prejudice at this time from certain people. For the Drow, we can see an icon telling us that this race gets rapier, short sword, and hand crossbow proficiency. And then we have this more dramatic looking eye icon, which is telling me that this is probably superior dark vision. So Drow can see further distances in darker conditions than what most other races can. And then there's that Fey ancestry icon again of the tree. Now, humans are the race that many people have been inquiring more information about because the main benefit of playing as a human was that they got a +1 in all ability scores. But with this new ability score system where everyone gets a +2 and a +1, this nerfs the human a bit, unless Larian has added some racial features that can make up for it. But unfortunately, we don't know exactly what these are, but we can, I would say, reasonably speculate here. So this first human racial feature, I believe, is proficiency in light armor, shields, and then perhaps spears, polearms, or halberds, or all of the above. Now, this may not sound that great at first glance, but that light armor proficiency from a racial choice could be quite powerful for some of the caster classes that don't get armor proficiency. And then this triple arrow icon right here is unique to the human. I don't see it on any other race, but it's hard to know what it exactly means. Possibly some sort of jack of all trades type thing where humans will excel in more skills than most others, kind of like the bard class does. Although I did hear a rumor that humans may be getting a carrion capacity upgrade. Really just don't know right now, but that particular icon will be important, as I think it will be the determining factor as to whether people feel the human race is a bit underwhelming or not. Moving on to the Halfling, and this first icon should represent the lucky feature, which basically rerolls the die for you whenever you roll a 1 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Cool, powerful feature that could turn a 1 into a critical strike. And the second icon should be Brave, which gives advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Now, the Halfling subrace choices are going to be Lightfoot, which will give you stealth proficiency, Strongheart, which gives you advantage on saving throws against poison and gives you resistance to poison damage. And actually, that's it. I'm not sure why I was acting like there was going to be more than that. Now, I'm not sure if Larian's going to change anything with the race's movement speed, but do note that Halflings and Dwarves only get 25 feet of base movement speed, while many of the other races get 30. The Half-Elf is another interesting choice here because one of the big reasons why this race was so popular was because it offered a +2 in Charisma, but also a +1 in 2 ability scores of your choice. So the new system in some ways could be a bit of a nerf depending on your build. The first icon here is Larian's attempt to buff up the Half-Elf a little bit and give us some new proficiencies. And these appear to be the same as the human with that light armor proficiency, shield, and spears, polearms, glaives, or whatever, something in that category. So this could potentially be a really good racial feature depending on what class you're choosing and what proficiencies already come with that class. And then next to that one, we can see Dark Vision and then, of course, Fey Ancestry. The subrace choices for the Half-Elf are going to be Wood Half-Elf, High Half-Elf, and Drow Half-Elf, with Wood Half-Elf likely offering a boost to your movement speed to 35 feet, and then the High Half-Elf probably offers a choice of a cantrip, and the Drow will likely give you a cantrip that's called Dancing Lights. Then we got the Hardy Dwarves, of which we can see proficiency with battle axes, hand axes, light hammer, and warhammer. Next to that is Dark Vision, and the third icon is likely Dwarven Resilience, which gives resistance to poison damage and also advantage on saving throws against poison. Your subrace choices here will be Hill, Mountain, and Duergar, with Hill likely offering Dwarven Toughness, which will increase your hit point maximum by 1 for each level. And do know that the Hill Dwarf is the same as the early access subrace of Dwarf called the Gold Dwarf. The Mountain Dwarf, which is the early access Shield Dwarf, should offer medium and light armor proficiency, and perhaps something else as well, as the new ability score system kind of nerfs the Mountain Dwarf a little bit, as they used to get a +2 in Constitution and a +2 in Strength. And then the Duergar, we don't really know what the extras are yet, but I'm guessing that it would offer superior dark vision, just like the Drow gets, and also perhaps some sort of psychic type feature or cantrip. The Githyanki race has no sub-race choice, but they do come with some nice racial features. The first right here is an action called Astral Knowledge. And I know this because I clicked on it when I got to play the full version of the game. This action will award you with temporary proficiency in one of several different skills, but unfortunately I didn't write down all the skills. I also don't know how this action recharges, but I'm guessing once per short rest, maybe once per long rest. Now, Githyanki also get the Mage Hand cantrip, and they should get proficiency with light and medium armor. short swords, long swords, and great swords. So medium armor proficiency here is a really nice one for this race, and it allows for some interesting armor choices when you choose classes that don't get medium armor proficiency. And we have 3 more races to talk about, and let's start off with the Gnome. So we can only see one racial feature here for the Gnome, which I believe is Gnome Cunning, which gives gnomes advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. This is actually a very good feature, as when you're playing a gnome, you're going to be resisting so many of the spells that your opponents cast on you. The gnome subraces are Forest, Rock, and Deep Gnome, and Forest will likely give you Dark Vision and the Speak with Animals spell. Rock gnomes should award the player with Dark Vision and also make it so that your gnome now gets double their proficiency bonus in History skill checks. And then the Deep Gnome should give Superior Dark Vision as well as Stone Camouflage, which gives you advantage on stealth checks. And moving on to the Half-Orc, and the Half-Orc gets Dark Vision. And then the next icon, I'm assuming, represents Relentless Endurance, which is a really good feature that saves your orc from being downed once per long rest, as it prevents you from dropping to 0 hit points when you take that damage, and instead it stops that at 1 hit point. So it's a really good feature, especially for tanky characters, but basically it's really good for all characters though. And the other icon right here, I would believe, is Savage Attacks, which is also really amazing, as when you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, the weapon's damage die will roll an additional time. So it's already rolling twice because of the critical hit. Now you get a 3rd roll on top of that. Crazy, crazy good damage. So Half-Orcs really do fit well with the tank role, and also those of you that are going to be playing these melee damage dealer type roles. And last but not least is, of course, the Dragonborn, but as you can see, there's no racial features showing here, and that's because all of the racial features come with your subrace choice, of which there are 10 different choices. We do actually get to see some of these choices in the footage. So we're now on the subrace tab for the Dragonborn, and you can see for the choices we have black, blue, brass, bronze, copper, gold, green, red, silver, and white. Now your choice here will give you a breath weapon, which is basically an AoE spell, even though it's not technically a spell. And depending on the type of subrace that you choose will determine the type of damage that is dealt from this breath weapon. So the black and copper dragons do acid, brass, gold, and red dragons do fire, the silver and white do cold, the blue and bronze do lightning, and the green dragon is poison. Your subrace choice also gives you resistant to that type of damage, which can be super useful. So that's basically what we got to see for the races. The next tab would be your class choice and the features and spells that come with that class right away at level 1. I've already talked about many of these features in my class overview video. I will leave a link below. And of course, I will have very in-depth guides coming out when we actually get our hands on the full game. Now, what is new here is that we get to see a little animation introduction for every single class. So I'm going to let that play out right now, but I will leave a chapter marker below if you want to skip ahead to the subclass part of this video. So now we've made it to the subclass tab, and we get to see a bit of the new layout here. I really love the interface and how everything is looking in the full version of the game. This player currently has the sorcerer selected for class, which is giving us the options for wild magic, draconic bloodline, or storm sorcery as our subclass choice. And then you can see below the subclass choice is the features that come with that subclass. We did get a little demonstration of the player choosing Draconic Bloodline as their subclass and then choosing their Dragon Ancestry, which comes with that subclass choice. And this is pretty cool to see because your Draconic Ancestry choice not only gives you a spell, but it also changes the appearance of your character. And this is quite interesting when you're already playing as a Dragonborn, as you guys can see in the footage. There's also a shot of the Paladin subclass selection tab, and this is our first time seeing the Oath of Vengeance Paladin. This subclass is described as, you have set aside even your own purity to right wrongs and deliver justice to those who have committed the most grievous sins. Now, the action for the Vengeance Pally, I'm guessing, is Abjure Enemy, which presents a holy symbol and causes that enemy to be potentially frightened. Vengeance Pallies should also get Vow of Enmity, which gives them advantage on an attack roll against a creature, but I'm thinking that that perhaps comes at level 3. Could be wrong, though. And the last two tabs in the character creator are your background tab and the ability scores tab, but we didn't get to see any new footage of these tabs, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. So the background tab in this game, what you're looking at right now is early access footage at this moment in time. We'll let you choose a background for your character, and this background not only gives you some skill proficiencies, but it also ties into the game's inspiration point system. So in Baldur's Gate 3, when you do something in the game that complements your chosen background, for example, if you choose the criminal background and you successfully do some sort of crime, the game may end up rewarding you with an inspiration point, basically saying that you're RPing your background choice quite well. And these inspiration points can be used to re-roll the die when you're in dialogue skill checks. You can only have 4 at a time, though. And the ability score tab is, of course, where you dump all your points with the point buy system. And like I mentioned in some of my previous videos, I didn't see a way to roll for your ability scores, but I guess it's possible that the version I played could be different, a little bit different from the full launch. And of course, we have a new system here where every single player gets to put a +2 or a +1 into whatever ability score that they want. It's no longer dependent on your racial choice. Now, generally speaking, you're going to give your primary ability score for your class a 16 with a +3 modifier. So for example, clerics use wisdom for spellcasting, so they're going to want most likely a 16 in wisdom, while a heavy weapon wielding fighter uses strength for their melee attacks, and they're probably going to want a 16 in strength. But there's so many different ways that you can do this, and I'm going to put out an in-depth ability score guide sometime in the near future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm going to let some of the footage play here without commentary now, and also whenever we get news on anything, I will of course be dropping videos. Feel free to join the community Discord server, which is below in the video description. We have a great community over there, and I'll catch you all on the next one.